Have you ever thought about how much power your words really have? We're not talking about magic spells or secret chants. We're talking about something much simpler yet incredibly powerful. The everyday words you use, especially when you talk to yourself. There's a man named Neville Goddard who had some amazing ideas about this. He believed that the words we use could actually change our lives. It's not about fancy techniques or complicated rituals. It's all about how you talk to yourself and what you say about your life. Think about it for a moment. How do you usually talk to yourself? Do you often say things like, "I can't do this," or "this always happens to me"? Or do you use words that make you feel strong and capable? Goddard thought that these everyday words were like seeds we plant in our minds. And just like real seeds, they grow into the reality we see around us. Now you might be thinking, come on, how can just changing my words make a difference? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore. We're going to look at how Goddard's ideas about the power of words can help you create the life you want. It's not about positive thinking or pretending everything is perfect. It's about understanding the deep connection between your words, your thoughts, and your reality. Here's the thing. If you don't change how you talk to yourself, nothing in your life will change. That might sound harsh, but it's true. Think about it like this. If you keep planting the same seeds, you'll keep getting the same plants. If you want different results, you need to plant different seeds. In this case, those seeds are your words. But here's where it gets tricky. Changing how you talk to yourself isn't always easy. It means facing some hard truths about how you think and what you believe about yourself and the world. It's like cleaning out a messy closet. You might find some things you'd rather not look at. But just like cleaning that closet, once you do it, you'll feel so much better and have more room for good things in your life. This process might make you uncomfortable at first. You might have to admit that some of your problems come from how you think and talk about yourself. But remember, recognizing this is actually good news. It means you have the power to change things. You're not a victim of circumstances. You're the creator of your life, and your words are your most powerful tool. So who was this Neville Goddard, and why should we listen to him? Neville Goddard was a spiritual teacher who lived from 1905 to 1972. He wasn't a scientist or a doctor, but he had some really interesting ideas about how our minds work and how we create our reality. Goddard believed that our imagination is incredibly powerful and that what we imagine and say to ourselves becomes our reality. One of Goddard's main ideas was that the world outside us is a reflection of what's inside us. He thought that our thoughts, and especially our words, shape our experiences. It's like we're all walking around with a magic mirror that shows us a world that matches what we think and say. Goddard taught that we could change our lives by changing our inner conversations. These are the words we say to ourselves in our heads all day long. He believed that if we could change these conversations, we could change our whole lives. It's not about pretending everything is perfect or ignoring problems. It's about consciously choosing words that reflect the life we want to create. Another important part of Goddard's teaching was the idea of living as if. This means talking and thinking as if what you want is already true. For example, if you want a new job, instead of saying, "I hope I get a new job," you would say, "I'm so grateful for my wonderful new job." It might feel weird at first, like you're lying to yourself. But Goddard believed that this was the key to making your desires real. Goddard also taught that everyone and everything in our world is really a part of us. He called this the law of oneness. This idea can be a bit hard to understand at first, but basically, it means that when we change ourselves, we change our whole world. It's like we're the center of our own universe, and everything revolves around our thoughts and words. Now, you might be wondering, does this really work? Can changing my words really change my life? Well, Goddard had countless students who said it did work for them. They reported amazing changes in their lives, from finding love to getting dream jobs to healing illnesses. Of course, it's not instant or magical. It takes practice and patience. But according to Goddard, it's one of the most powerful tools we have for creating the life we want. One thing that's really interesting about Goddard's teachings is that they're not about forcing things to happen. It's not about trying really hard or struggling. Instead, it's about relaxing into the feeling of already having what you want. It's about choosing words that make you feel good and that match the life you want to create. Goddard often used examples from the Bible to explain his ideas, but you don't have to be religious to use his methods. The principles work whether you're spiritual, religious, or not. It's all about understanding the power of your own mind and words. So, how do we actually use Goddard's ideas in our everyday lives? Well, it starts with becoming aware of your current self-talk. What kind of things do you say to yourself throughout the day? Are they mostly positive or negative? Do they reflect the life you want or the life you're trying to leave behind? Once you're aware of your current self-talk, you can start to change it. This doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing words that empower you and move you towards what you want. For example, instead of saying, "I'm so bad with money," you might say, "I'm learning to manage my money better every day." Goddard also taught the importance of feeling the reality of your words. It's not just about saying positive things, it's about really feeling as if they're true. This is where your imagination comes in. When you say your new, empowering words to yourself, try to imagine how you would feel if they were already true. What would it feel like to be great with money? How would you act? What would your day look like? Another key part of Goddard's teaching was the idea of persistence. Changing your self-talk isn't a one-time thing. It's something you need to do consistently. It's like learning a new language. At first it feels awkward and unnatural, but the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Goddard also emphasized the importance of relaxation in this process. He taught that tension and anxiety block our desires from manifesting. So when you're practicing your new self-talk, try to do it in a relaxed state. Some people find it helpful to do this right before falling asleep or just after waking up, when the mind is naturally more relaxed and open. One of the most powerful techniques Goddard taught was called revision. This involves reimagining past events in a more positive light. For example, if you had a bad day at work, before you go to sleep, you would reimagine the day as if it had gone perfectly. This might seem like denial, but Goddard believed it actually had the power to change not just our future, but our past as well. Now you might be thinking, this all sounds great, but what if I don't believe it will work? Goddard had an answer for this too. He said that it doesn't matter if you believe it at first. What matters is that you do it. He compared it to planting a seed. You don't have to believe the seed will grow. You just have to plant it and water it. The seed's nature is to grow, just like it's the nature of our words and imagination to create our reality. Goddard's teachings can be applied to all areas of life. Whether you want to improve your relationships, your career, your health, or your financial situation, the principle is the same. Change your words, change your life. It's simple, but it's not always easy. It takes practice and persistence. One thing that's really powerful about Goddard's approach is that it puts you in control. You're not waiting for the world to change or for other people to treat you differently. You're changing your inner world and watching as your outer world shifts to match it. This can be incredibly empowering, especially if you felt stuck or powerless in your life. Goddard also taught that time is not a barrier to this process. He believed that our desires don't have to unfold slowly over time. In fact, he taught that time is an illusion and that all possibilities exist right now. Our job is simply to choose which possibility we want to experience and to live as if it's already true. This idea can be a bit mind-bending at first. We're so used to thinking of time as a straight line, with the past behind us and the future ahead. But Goddard suggested that all time, past, present, and future, is actually happening now. This means that the version of you who already has what you want exists right now. Your job is simply to step into that version of yourself through your words and imagination. Now, it's important to note that Goddard's teachings aren't about ignoring reality or pretending that problems don't exist. It's not about denying your current circumstances. Instead, it's about acknowledging where you are, but then consciously choosing to focus on where you want to be. It's about using your words and imagination to bridge the gap between your current reality and your desired reality. Goddard often used the metaphor of a garden to explain this process. He said that our minds are like gardens, and our words and thoughts are the seeds we plant in this garden. Just like a real garden, we can't plant weeds, negative thoughts and words, and expect to grow flowers, positive experiences. We have to consciously choose which seeds we want to plant. But here's the really interesting part. Goddard taught that we're always planting seeds, whether we realize it or not. Every word we speak, every thought we think, is a seed being planted in the garden of our mind. This means that many of us have been unconsciously creating our reality all along. The good news is that once we become aware of this, we can start to consciously create the reality we want. One of the challenges people often face when trying to apply Goddard's teachings is dealing with doubt and negative thoughts. It's natural for doubts to come up, especially when you're trying something new. Goddard's advice was not to fight these thoughts, but to gently replace them with your chosen words and images. It's like changing the channel on a TV. You don't have to fight with the program you don't want to watch. You just switch to a channel you prefer. Goddard also emphasized the importance of gratitude in this process. He taught that feeling grateful for what you want, as if you already have it, is a powerful way to bring it into your life. This isn't about pretending to be grateful for things you don't have. It's about genuinely feeling the gratitude you would feel if your desire had already manifested. Another interesting aspect of Goddard's teaching was his view on action. Unlike some manifestation teachers who emphasize taking massive action, Goddard taught that inspired action would naturally flow from the right state of mind. In other words, when you truly embody the person who has what you want, you'll naturally take the right actions without having to force yourself. This doesn't mean you sit around doing nothing, waiting for things to magically appear. It means that your actions come from a place of alignment with your desires, rather than from a place of lack or struggle. It's the difference between frantically searching for a job because you're scared of running out of money and confidently exploring opportunities because you know the right job is coming to you. Goddard's teachings also touch on the idea of identity. He believed that to create lasting change, we need to change our concept of who we are. This goes beyond just changing our words. It's about truly seeing yourself as the person who has what you want. For example, if you want to be wealthy, it's not just about saying, "I am wealthy." It's about truly seeing yourself as a wealthy person, thinking the thoughts a wealthy person would think, and making the choices a wealthy person would make. This idea of identity shifts can be powerful because it addresses change at a fundamental level. Instead of trying to change your behavior or circumstances directly, you're changing the root, your concept of who you are. When your identity shifts, your behaviors and circumstances naturally shift to match. Goddard also taught about the power of sleep in this process. He believed that the moments right before sleep are especially powerful for impressing new ideas on our subconscious mind. He encouraged his students to fall asleep while holding the feeling of their desire fulfilled. This technique, often called lullaby, can be a powerful way to reprogram your subconscious mind while you sleep. One of the beautiful things about Goddard's teachings is that they empower us to take responsibility for our lives. Instead of seeing ourselves as victims of circumstances, we start to see ourselves as creators of our reality. This shift in perspective can be incredibly liberating. It means that no matter what's happened in the past, we have the power to shape our future through our words and imagination. Goddard's ideas also touch on the concept of everyone being you pushed out. This means that the way people treat you is a reflection of your own self-concept. If you want people to treat you differently, you need to change your concept of yourself and others. This can be a challenging idea to grasp, but it puts the power back in your hands. Instead of trying to change others, you focus on changing yourself. It's important to note that Goddard's teachings aren't about controlling others or manipulating the world around you. They're about aligning yourself with your desires and allowing them to manifest naturally. It's a subtle but important distinction. You're not forcing things to happen, you're allowing them to happen by becoming the person who naturally experiences what you want. Goddard also taught about the importance of living in the end. This means mentally living as if your desire is already fulfilled. It's not about pretending or play acting, it's about truly embodying the feeling of having what you want. When you can do this consistently, Goddard taught, your outer world has no choice but to conform to your inner experience. One of the challenges people often face when applying Goddard's teachings is dealing with setbacks or when things don't seem to be working. Goddard's advice was to persist in your assumption. He believed that our 3D world often lags behind our imagination, so what we see with our physical eyes isn't always an accurate reflection of what we've been imagining. The key is to keep faith in the unseen reality of your imagination, even when your senses tell you otherwise. Goddard's teachings also touch on the idea of everyone being you pushed out. This means that the way people treat you is a reflection of your own self-concept. If you want people to treat you differently, you need to change your concept of yourself and others. This can be a challenging idea to grasp, but it puts the power back in your hands. Instead of trying to change others, you focus on changing yourself. It's worth noting that Goddard's teachings aren't about instant gratification or getting everything you want immediately. They're about aligning yourself with your desires and allowing them to unfold naturally. This process often involves personal growth and transformation. As you change your words and your self-concept, you may find that you change as a person. Your priorities might shift, Your relationships might change, and you might discover new aspects of yourself. Goddard also emphasized the importance of feeling in this process. It's not just about saying the right words or visualizing what you want. It's about feeling the reality of it. He often said that feeling is the secret. When you can combine the right words with the right feeling, that's when real magic happens. One of the beautiful things about Goddard's teachings is that they can be applied to any area of life. Whether you want to improve your health, your relationships, your career, or your spiritual life, the principle is the same. Change your words, change your self-concept, and you change your reality. It's also worth noting that Goddard's teachings aren't about accumulating material possessions or achieving worldly success, although they can certainly be used for those purposes if that's what you desire. At their core, they're about realizing your own divine nature and your ability to create your reality. Goddard believed that we are all expressions of God or the divine, and that our imagination is God's gift to us, our way of co-creating with the divine. Neville Goddard had a fascinating way of looking at the world. He believed that everything we see around us is like a big mirror, reflecting what's going on inside our minds. It's a bit like when you look in a regular mirror, you see your own face looking back at you. Goddard thought that life works in a similar way. The things that happen to us, the people we meet, the opportunities we get, all of these are reflections of our inner thoughts and words. Let's break this down a bit. Have you ever noticed that when you're in a bad mood, it seems like everything goes wrong? Maybe you stub your toe, or you miss the bus, or your coffee spills. On the other hand, when you're feeling great, good things seem to happen more often. You might get an unexpected compliment, or find money you forgot about in your pocket. Goddard would say this isn't just chance. It's the mirror principle at work. But here's the really powerful part. If the world is a mirror of our inner state, that means we can change what we see in the mirror by changing what's inside us. It's like if you don't like what you see in a regular mirror, you don't try to change the reflection, you change yourself, and the reflection changes automatically. So how does this work with our thoughts and words? Well, if you're constantly thinking and saying things like, "I never have enough money," or "I always get sick in the winter," the mirror of life will reflect that back to you. You might find yourself always short on cash or catching every cold that comes around. But if you start thinking and saying things like, "I'm good at managing my money," or "I have a strong, healthy body," over time, you'll start to see those things reflected in your life. Now, this doesn't mean that just saying positive things once or twice will instantly change your life. Remember, the mirror of life is reflecting your deep, inner beliefs and habitual thoughts. These are like deep grooves in your mind that have been formed over years. Changing them takes time and consistency, but the good news is it can be done. Goddard taught that we're always using this mirror principle whether we realize it or not. Every thought, every word is shaping our reality. The key is to become aware of this process and start using it consciously. Instead of letting our thoughts and words run on autopilot, we can choose them carefully, knowing that they're creating our future. This mirror principle also explains why different people can have such different experiences of the same situation. Two people might work at the same job, but one sees it as a terrible grind, while the other sees it as a great opportunity. The job itself isn't making their experiences different. It's their inner attitudes and beliefs that are being reflected back to them. Understanding this principle can be incredibly empowering. It means that if we don't like what we see in our lives, we have the power to change it. We're not victims of circumstances, but creators of our reality. It puts the power back in our hands. Now that we understand how our inner world is reflected in our outer world, let's talk about one of the most powerful tools we have for shaping our inner world: our words. Goddard put a lot of emphasis on the power of our words, especially the words we say to ourselves in our heads. He believed that these inner conversations were constantly shaping our reality. Think about it. We talk to ourselves all day long. From the moment we wake up to the moment we fall asleep, there's a constant stream of chatter in our minds. I'm so tired. I hope I don't mess up this presentation. I'll never be able to afford that. Why does this always happen to me? These might seem like harmless thoughts, but according to Goddard, they're actually powerful statements that are shaping our reality. So the first step in using Goddard's teachings is to become aware of your inner conversations. What are you saying to yourself throughout the day? Are your words mostly positive or negative? Do they reflect the life you want or the life you're trying to move away from? Once you're aware of your current self-talk, you can start to change it. This doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect or ignoring real problems. It means choosing words that empower you and move you towards what you want. For example, instead of saying, "I'm so bad with money," you might say, "I'm learning to manage my money better every day." Instead of "I always mess up in social situations," you might say, "I'm becoming more confident and comfortable in social situations." Goddard taught that it's especially powerful to use "I am" statements. "I am" puts you in the present tense and affirms something as a current reality. So instead of saying, "I want to be successful," you might say, "I am successful." This might feel strange at first, like you're lying to yourself, but remember, you're not trying to convince your conscious mind. You're speaking to your subconscious, planting seeds that will grow into your future reality. It's also important to pay attention to the words you use when you talk about others and the world around you. Remember, according to Goddard, everything in your world is a reflection of you. So when you judge others harshly or complain about the state of the world, you're actually affirming those negative qualities in your own life. Instead, try to see the best in others and in your circumstances. This doesn't mean ignoring problems, but it means focusing on solutions and positive aspects rather than dwelling on what's wrong. Another powerful technique Goddard taught was to use your imagination to create little scenes in your mind that reflect the reality you want to create. As you imagine these scenes, describe them to yourself using positive, empowering words. For example, if you want a new job, you might imagine yourself sitting at your new desk, feeling happy and fulfilled, and say to yourself, "I love my new job. I'm doing work that I enjoy, and that makes a difference. My colleagues appreciate me, and I'm well compensated for my efforts." Remember, the goal isn't to use words to try to force things to happen. It's about aligning your inner world with the reality you want to create. When you do this consistently, you'll start to notice changes in your outer world. It might start with small things. Maybe you feel a little more confident, or you notice more opportunities coming your way. But over time, these small changes can lead to big transformations in your life. Now, here's something really important to understand about Goddard's teachings. There's often a delay between when we change our words and thoughts and when we see changes in our physical reality. This is a bit like planting a seed. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't see the plant pop up immediately. It takes time for the seed to sprout and grow. In the same way, when you start changing your inner conversations and using more positive, empowering words, You might not see immediate changes in your life. This is where a lot of people get discouraged and give up. They try positive self-talk for a few days or weeks, don't see any big changes, and decide it doesn't work. But Goddard taught that we need to persist in our new way of thinking and talking, even when we don't see immediate results. He believed that changes were happening beneath the surface, even if we couldn't see them yet. It's like the seeds sprouting underground before it breaks through the soil. This delay can actually be a good thing. It gives us time to really cement our new patterns of thought and speech. If everything we said instantly came true, we'd have to be incredibly careful with every word. Instead, we have time to practice and get comfortable with our new way of thinking before it manifests in our reality. During this delay period, it's important to stay consistent with your new words and thoughts. Don't flip back and forth between positive and negative self-talk. Stick with your new empowering words even if you don't see changes right away. Trust that the seeds you're planting will grow in time. It can help to think of this process like learning a new language. When you first start learning a new language, it feels awkward and unnatural. You have to think about every word, and you make a lot of mistakes. But if you keep practicing, eventually it starts to feel more natural. You start thinking in the new language without having to translate in your head. Using positive, empowering self-talk is similar. At first, it might feel fake or forced, but if you keep at it, eventually it becomes your natural way of thinking. Goddard also taught that during this delay period, we should live as if our desire has already been fulfilled. This means not just saying the words, but feeling the feelings and acting in ways consistent with already having what we want. This can be challenging, especially when our current circumstances seem to contradict what we're affirming, but Goddard believed that this living as if was crucial to bringing our desires into reality. Remember, the delay doesn't mean it's not working. Changes are happening, even if you can't see them yet. Just like a farmer has to trust that his crops are growing, even when he can't see anything happening under the ground, we have to trust in the power of our words and thoughts, even when we can't yet see the results. During this delay period, it can be helpful to look for small signs that things are changing. Maybe you notice that you're feeling a little more confident, or that people are treating you a bit differently. Maybe you start seeing opportunities that you hadn't noticed before. These small changes are like the first tiny sprouts breaking through the soil. They're signs that your new thoughts and words are starting to take effect. It's also important during this time to guard against doubt and negative self-talk. It's natural for doubts to come up, especially when we don't see immediate changes. But remember, your words are powerful. If you start saying things like, "This isn't working," or "nothing ever changes for me," you're planting new seeds that can undo the positive ones you've been cultivating. Instead, when doubts come up, gently replace them with your new, empowering words. Goddard taught that this delay period is actually a gift. It gives us time to really embody the person we want to be, to get comfortable with our new self-concept before it manifests in our outer world. Use this time to really feel into your desire, to imagine it in vivid detail, and to practice being the person who already has what you want. Remember, change takes time. Just like it took time for your current reality to manifest, it will take time for your new reality to take shape. But if you persist in your new way of thinking and speaking, trusting in the process even when you can't see results, you'll eventually start to see your outer world change to match your inner world. One of the most powerful aspects of Goddard's teachings is the idea of focusing on what you want rather than what you don't want. This might sound simple, but it's actually quite profound when you start to apply it in your life. Many of us have a habit of focusing on our problems, on what's missing, or on what we're trying to avoid. But Goddard taught that this actually keeps us stuck in the very situations we're trying to change. Instead, he encouraged us to put our attention on what we want to create in our lives. This doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing to focus your mental and emotional energy on your desired outcome, rather than on the current situation you're trying to change. For example, if you're unhappy with your job, instead of constantly thinking and talking about how much you dislike it, you would focus on the kind of job you do want. What would it feel like to have a job you love? What kind of work would you be doing? How would you feel at the end of each day? By focusing on these positive aspects, you're more likely to notice opportunities that align with your desires, and you're programming your subconscious mind to move towards what you want. Goddard also emphasized the importance of gratitude for what you already have. This might seem counterintuitive if you're trying to change your life, but it's actually a powerful practice. When you focus on what you're grateful for, you're putting yourself in a positive state of mind. You're telling the universe and your subconscious mind that good things come to you. This positive state makes it easier to imagine and believe in even better things coming your way. Practicing gratitude doesn't mean you have to be satisfied with everything in your life. It's about finding things to appreciate even as you work towards your goals. Maybe you're grateful for your health, for the support of friends and family, or for the lessons you've learned from challenges. By cultivating gratitude, you're creating a fertile ground for more good things to grow in your life. Now let's put these ideas into practice with a simple exercise based on Goddard's teachings. This exercise is designed to help you start changing your inner conversations and focus on what you want to create in your life. First, choose an area of your life that you'd like to improve. It could be your career, your relationships, your health, or anything else that's important to you. Next, take a few moments to imagine your ideal scenario in this area of your life. What would it look like if everything was exactly as you want it to be? Really let yourself feel into this scenario. What would you see, hear, feel? How would you carry yourself? What would your daily life be like? Now, based on this ideal scenario, create a short positive statement in the present tense. This is often called an affirmation. For example, if you're focusing on your career, your statement might be something like, "I am successful and fulfilled in my work. I use my talents to make a positive difference, and I am well compensated for my efforts." Here's the key part of the exercise. For the next week, make it a point to repeat this statement to yourself at least 3 times a day. A good time to do this is first thing in the morning, during the middle of the day, and just before you go to sleep at night. As you say the words, really try to feel as if they are already true. During the day, when you catch yourself thinking or talking negatively about this area of your life, gently redirect your thoughts to your positive statement. Don't judge yourself for the negative thoughts, just notice them and choose to focus on what you want instead. At the end of the week, take some time to reflect. How do you feel? Have you noticed any changes, even small ones, in your thoughts, feelings, or circumstances? Remember, big changes often start with small shifts in perspective. This exercise is just a starting point. The real power comes from consistently applying these principles over time. As you get comfortable with this process, you can create similar statements for other areas of your life that you want to improve. To really understand how powerful Goddard's teachings can be, it can help to look at some real-life examples. While everyone's journey is unique, these stories can inspire us and show us what's possible when we apply these principles consistently. One common example is in the area of relationships. Many people have used Goddard's techniques to improve their love lives. For instance, there's a story of a woman who had been single for years and was beginning to believe she'd never find a partner. She started using positive self-talk, saying things like, "I am in a loving, committed relationship with someone who adores me." She also began imagining how it would feel to be in this relationship, really letting herself experience the joy and love. At first, nothing seemed to change, but she persisted with her new thoughts and words. After a few months, she noticed she was feeling more confident and open when meeting new people. Then, quite unexpectedly, she met someone through a mutual friend. They hit it off immediately, and within a year, they were in the loving, committed relationship she had been imagining. Another example comes from the world of career and finance. There's a story of a man who was struggling financially and felt stuck in a job he disliked. He began using Goddard's techniques, affirming things like, "I am abundantly prosperous and engaged in fulfilling work." He would imagine himself going to a job he loved and easily paying his bills. Again, changes didn't happen overnight. But as he persisted with his new thoughts and mental images, he started noticing small shifts. He found himself having new ideas at work, which led to a promotion. This boost in confidence inspired him to take some classes in a field he was passionate about. Eventually, this led to a career change into work that he found truly fulfilling, and his financial situation improved dramatically. These stories highlight a few important points about using Goddard's techniques. First, persistence is key. In both cases, the individuals kept up with their new thought patterns even when they didn't see immediate results. Second, the changes often start small and build over time. And third, the results sometimes come in unexpected ways. The universe, or our subconscious mind, often has creative ways of bringing our desires to us that we might not have anticipated. It's important to note that while these examples focus on external changes, finding a relationship, changing careers, the real transformation happens internally. The external changes are a reflection of the inner shift in beliefs and self-concept. Neville Goddard's teachings about the power of words offer us a profound way to shape our lives. By understanding that our outer world reflects our inner thoughts and words, we gain a powerful tool for creating the life we desire. The mirror principle shows us that what we experience is a reflection of our inner state, and by changing our words, we can change this reflection. Choosing our words carefully becomes a practice of consciously creating our reality. We learn to focus on what we want rather than what we don't want, and to cultivate gratitude for what we already have. While there may be a delay between changing our words and seeing results in our physical reality, persistence and patience are key. The practical exercise provided gives us a starting point to apply these principles in our own lives. By consistently using positive, empowering language and focusing on our desired outcomes, we can begin to see shifts in our reality. The real-life examples show us that these techniques can lead to significant changes across various aspects of life, from relationships to careers. Remember, the power of your words isn't about forcing change or controlling the world around you. It's about aligning your inner world with your desires and allowing your outer world to naturally reflect this alignment. It's a process that requires patience, persistence, and faith, but the potential for transformation is immense. As you move forward, pay attention to your inner conversations. Choose words that empower you and reflect the reality you want to create. Focus on what you want rather than what you don't want. Practice gratitude for what you have, even as you work towards what you desire. And most importantly, persist in this practice, knowing that even when you can't see immediate results, powerful changes are happening beneath the surface. Your words are seeds that you're planting in the garden of your mind. Tend to them carefully, nurture them with your attention and emotion, and in time, you'll see them blossom into the reality of your dreams. The power to shape your life is within you, in the words you choose to think and speak. Use this power wisely and watch as your world transforms to reflect the best of who you are and who you're becoming.